Hi guys, we're checking out Dead Island Riptide. I'm joined by Alex, the creative producer over at Deep Silver. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fine. Now, this game is a sequel to the original Dead Island, so why don't you tell us a little about what kind of happened in the story, where this is taking place, what has happened?
So I definitely want to mention that the game's actually not a sequel, because we don't want to quite kind of rethink everything, reinvent the wheel. We definitely wanted to focus on creating a whole new game, lots of original content, kind of can use the New Vegas, Fallout 3 sort of metaphor for the game. But Dead Island Riptide has a lot of stuff that's new. We've got the island of Palanai, which has a lot of diverse settings, beautiful flooded jungles, and the city of Henderson. We've got our fifth playable hero, John Morgan, who's kind of an ass-kicking martial arts expert. We've got hub defense missions in the game, tons of new weapons, new zombies, and this really kind of exciting water element with boats and kind of finally being able to have a gunship with your friends. But the level cap's been raised, firearms are there bigger than they've ever been, and there's a lot of stuff to love in Riptide.
Cool, so you mentioned fifth playable character. Does that mean 5 playable characters co-op, or is it still just 4?
So we're sticking to 4. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got a couple things to consider. You've got the technical stuff. Obviously, it's always better to have 4 players with a normal frame rate than 5 players with 2 frames a second. But it's also nice just kind of for the clutter to kind of keep it a little bit more organized, to know where everybody is. With 5 players, it can get a little bit crazy. And also, I think it's about kind of keeping people on their toes and knowing that you can't necessarily have every specialist all the time. You're still going to have to, at the end of the day, choose what's the group strength a little tiny bit.
So what other kind of additions are you adding for multiplayer this time around?
So multiplayer has a bunch of cool new stuff. We've got the contextual ping, which is really going to help people out in figuring out where items are and which enemies you should be targeting and fighting. We've also got, within the things like the hub defense missions, we've got NPC companions that are going to be fighting alongside the main group. But multiplayer's really gone through a nice revamping over time. We've got things like the sort of adaptive difficulty for different players, so you don't have to worry if you're a level 50 player and you want to play with your new friend or somebody starting a new character. Everybody's going to see the zombies at their level and be able to fight seamlessly together.
So what are some of the features that you're most excited about in this game?
I'd say one of the things that I'm really looking forward to are the boats. The boats are finally, the trucks were a lot of fun in Dead Island, but one of the things is, you can never kind of have all guns blazing with your own sort of gunship, and now you finally got this feeling where everybody can really be cooperating together as you go down these flooded rivers, and the whole time you're doing that, you've got zombies popping up out of the water trying to claw their way onto the boat and turn it over, rip everybody out. So that's one of my favorite parts of the game. But I'd also have to say, by the way, some of John Morgan's abilities are a lot of fun. We've got things like his running kick that can, throw zombies back against, a wall on the other side of a room. We've got the uppercuts, vertical strikes, all kinds of cool abilities that make sure that these kills can be even more creative and crazy than they've ever been.
Cool. So what's going on in the story?
So the story follows up directly after the events of Dead Island. It takes place about a week after the original game, and we for those of you who remember the first game, we kind of get away on a helicopter. We don't quite know what's going to happen, and now we're going to see that we end up on an Australian naval vessel that's parked off the coast, and we're going to meet some people who have their own ideas about what's going on and what's supposed to happen, their own ideas of how this situation should be cleaned up, and it's going to be up to us to kind of end up leading a group of survivors through the jungles of Palanai in the hopes of sort of figuring out a little bit more about maybe the origins of the virus a little bit, and figuring out what it's capable of doing if we don't stop it.
Cool. So the game's called Riptide, obviously, so I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of watery features and stuff like that. Can you tell us a little more about that?
What I always like to say is that kind of the tide is rising. Riptide is about the sort of flood coming, not just in terms of the water itself, but also in terms of the virus affecting humanity. So the stakes are getting bigger, the stakes are getting higher. Water is something that you're always going to be seeing in the story as well. It's something that you're going to have to either be crossing over or pumping out of an area or getting through, but it's going to be a big obstacle. One of the problems with a zombie apocalypse is that there's nobody to clean up after the rains and stuff like that. So we're in the middle of the monsoon season, in the in the middle of Papua New Guinea here. So it's a really dangerous time to not be able to have fire crews and stuff like that around. So this is where, again, we've got to navigate this ourselves and hopefully be able to come out alive.
Cool. So in the demo you showed off, you were kind of like running around on this ship. It's kind of more like a scripted, more cinematic experience. So you're gonna have like a lot of those different closed areas, or is that like ship part of the big sandbox open world?
So you're referring to the prologue, which takes place on the ship. That's definitely something that's a little bit more guided, kind of setting up the story a little bit and showing exactly where we're at now in the world. But actually, the game really opens up from there. We've got some really cool signature moments. I think my favorite are our hub defense missions. These are giant battles where you're setting up miniguns, fences, mines, propane tanks, everything you can find to try and stave off these hordes of zombies that are coming at you alongside the NPCs and alongside your friends. So that's definitely going to be epic and big, almost kind of cinematic feel as these waves of zombies come in. But we definitely don't want to restrain players, and actually the game's more open and more explorable than it's ever been. Settings like Henderson, the new town that we've introduced, have a lot of even like multi-level vertical gameplay, different flooded areas down below, kind of eerily calm rooftops up above. There's lots of stuff to see, lots of side quests to find, and of course secret weapons and things lying around different places. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Can you give us some examples on some new cool weapons?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of our favorites is our pre-order bonus. The barbecue blade is a really, really fun weapon. But we've got all kinds of crazy stuff. We've got, tasers, golf clubs, all sorts of things. We've got our sonic pulse grenades, which, cause zombie heads to explode, all kind of in unison, at the frequency of the zombie brainwave. Yeah, those are just a couple of examples. But, we've also got, John's got his feral claws, things like that. Yeah, all kinds of new stuff. And firearms are also now a really big part of Riptide. We've taken it out of just being kind of something you get at the end game, you get a few bullets, to now having more ammo available, revamped targeting and ballistic system, and definitely better weapon selection for firearms as well.
Cool. So the original game has kind of like a huge cult following. Can you mention some features that were kind of like brought in from feedback from the fans?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the best examples is John's Fury skill. We really love videos like this, Fist of the Dead Star video, things like that fans created, showing guys getting punched, halfway across an area, and those were a big inspiration for us as well. Seeing just how creative players got with these kills, how stylish things went, really helped give us some inspiration as we were looking at overhauling or adding to the animation and physics system for the zombies, finding ways to make their animation more natural and stuff like that. We really looked a lot at what the fans had done in their videos and what could be taken away from that. Okay,
so the game is Dead Island Riptide. When is it coming out and on what platforms?
Yep, North America, April 23rd, rest of the world, April 26th. It's going to be available on PS3, Xbox 360, and PC.
No Wii U version?
No, sorry.